Mistaseni is a word that many that were around a few years ago would remember, and some that are coming of age are starting to learn about. And I've invited Steven Thair, who's a diver and writer, an enthusiast about this story, to come and share some background about an important milestone in Saskatchewan's history. Steven, thank you for coming today.
Hi, Randy. Thanks for having me.
Okay, give us a bit of background about this particular story and enlighten us a little bit about what it is that Mistaseni is.
Thousands of years ago, the Aboriginals in North America, 6 or 7 tribes, independently were attending the spiritual site in southern Saskatchewan. It's about 60 miles south of Outlook, and it's in a side valley to the South Saskatchewan River Valley. There's evidence that at times there were 100 teepees or more arranged along the river. And it was a meeting place in the spring. An elder told me about the time that the leaves were the size of the poplar leaves were the size of a nickel. That was the early spring when they would gather there. So that went on for thousands of years. And we can fast forward up to 1960. What this spiritual site was made up of was primarily a rock, a large rock about the size of a freight car. And it was worn on the sides. It was a buffalo rubbing stone. And I've spoken with many older people in the Outlook area who said they found trinkets, amulet bags, beads, and so forth in cracks in the rock and in the sand below the rock. So in the late 1950s, the government of Saskatchewan was looking seriously at building a dam there, which we all know was realized as the Gardner Dam and Diefenbaker Lake. But 2 years before the dam was done, it became apparent that the rock was going to be flooded. And a protest movement began in Saskatoon primarily, initiated by an archaeology professor and manager of a television station. And over the course of the next year, they tried to raise money. They had a benefit concert. Buffy St. Marie sang at it. Some older folks might remember comedian Dick Gregory, who was a black activist comedian from California, attended. Unfortunately, not very much money was raised, and the cost of moving this rock to higher ground was huge. And then, out of the blue, without any warning, people like me woke up one morning in December. I was in grade 11. And on the front page of the Star Phoenix was a picture of the rock with dust and debris flying 100 feet in the air. And they blew it to smithereens. The government did. It was a combined workforce of provincial employees and PFRA federal employees. So that was the end of the protest. That was the end of the ability of the Aboriginals to use that as a spiritual site and a gathering place. And then we jump forward to 2 years ago. And I do quite a bit of diving in the Caribbean, and not very much here because,
It's different.
it's cold, murky, and boring.
Yeah.
And I thought, what would induce me to get back in the water? Because I miss it. And I thought, I should go looking for that rock. And so I spent well over a year doing the paper search for the rock. I used the Access to Information Act. I got files from Ottawa. And eventually I got some pretty good coordinates we were confident in. I also at that time started working with Aboriginal elder, Barry Ahenecue, and a few other folks who were real helpful from the Saskatoon community. And in July last year, we went out with sonar and we found what looked like a pile of rocks. And there's, believe me, it's a pretty barren bottom down there. So a month later, we went back with 2 boats and a crew of 9 and an Aboriginal advisor on board, and 4 of us dove on the site, and we discovered the rock. It's very dark and murky there. Often you can't even see your own watch when it's 6 inches in front of your face. It's like chocolate milk. So I went down the descent line, and we knew we were close. We were within 30 or 40 feet of this pile of rubble that remained. And I was starting to cant over to one side, and I put my hand out thinking I'd hit the bottom, but instead I hit a piece of the rock, so we found it.
Very accurate.
And we did a few dives. We took some video. I brought a couple of pieces. These are pieces that we brought back to the surface last August. And you can see that it's not like a prairie rock. It's not smoothed on the edges. It's very sharp shards. This is a piece, you can see it's the same kind of rock. This is a piece I recovered from a fellow who worked on the dam, who is now retired and living in the Outlook area. And you can obviously see it's the same kind of rock.
I guess one question that I would have is, there must be other rocks in the area. Or is this the only one, or how would you know for certain that is it that barren that there are no other stones in that area?
We saw nothing within a half a mile on the sonar that was a tenth, even a hundredth the size of the amount of debris. Remember, this is something the size of a boxcar that was blown into pieces that were all pretty much smaller than this table. Most of them maybe a couple of feet across. I understand that the Saskatoon spiritual elders have been out to the site on the riverbank in the last couple of years, and my understanding is that they've advised that it still is a powerful spiritual site, and they're in conversation with the provincial government about building some sort of interpretive center or spiritual retreat center out there. So it's not over in that sense.
So there's no hope of me wading in and feeling around on the shoreline or something. This sounds like it's quite deep in the water.
It's 60 feet.
Okay.
Which is within the limits for any certified diver. This site has some additional difficulties. It's very cold. You have to wear dry suits, and it's very murky. You have to be comfortable in your skin when you can't see anything, and your lights don't illuminate anything. And if you lose the line with your buddy, you've got to be able to get it together somehow.
What was the motivating factor for you to find this? Was it because you remembered that day in grade 11, or was it something that you mentioned the diving end of it, but I suppose we have a whole number of lakes to dive in, but this one had some significance?
It started as a motivation to get back in the water, that it's obviously got more significance than just popping into a lake to see if you can spot a fish or something. So there was a little bit of motivation there, but mostly it was just to do it, to get back in the water and the challenge of finding it. But then once I got involved, I really came to appreciate the significance of it for the Aboriginal community.
No, that's not deep.
Yeah.
No, that's just, we're not
Well, finding a needle in a haystack is one thing, but finding a rock in a lake is even more intriguing, especially when it's that dark. What would be the next logical step now that we've located it? You mentioned there could be a negotiation between the First Nations and the government. Could there be any way that we could share that moment of when you found it, or did you record that, or what happened?
I had a professional videographer along on 2 trips, on the sonar trip and also on the dive trip. So we've got high definition video footage for all of the above water search, and as well I videoed the the interviews I did with the retired folks who worked on the dam site. I think the stories got real potential to provide a talking point for children in particular. You know, how did this happen? What was the circumstance that the governments of the day felt confident blowing this site to smithereens? And what would happen today? My own thought is it's unlikely that that would happen today. My own thought is that we have gained enough cultural sensitivity that there'd be more dialogue and that kind of thing wouldn't happen. But I would be interested in hearing what young people have to say. I've been working with film producer Doug Cuthand. We've been looking for money to do a documentary with something we might take to the schools too. We haven't found anybody to sign on the bottom line yet, but we're still looking.
Never say never, and I think given the remote chance that you know, there were no coordinates for you to start out with and say the rock is here, you had to locate it. I, for one, found the story itself quite captivating in light of everything that led up to that. And like you say, I don't know that would happen in today's time. On a go-forward basis, what would you like to see happen with the site, and is there anything that we could do to recover some of it, to maybe put out so that we could physically see it, touch it like we used to?
It's the Cree people who I think have the moral authority on what should be done, and I would certainly take my guidance from them. As for your own interest, there's an investment opportunity if you'd like to explore that. I'll put one thing out to the viewers, and that's this. If there's an experienced Aboriginal diver in the community, we'd be really interested in having him join the team and come down with us this summer.
I think it's a great story. Stephen, thank you so much for sharing that with us, and I wish you all the best in this endeavor.
Thank you very much.